We got a lot of news today to go over. Got a good question for you. Western Union, STCPay, Bank of America, Lloyds of London, SWIFT, GPI, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. What do they all have in common? Well, let's roll that beautiful intro and find out.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradley above at the top of the screen and everything we're talking about here today. Let's go ahead and get started with our feet planted firmly on the ground at 47 cents this morning. Oh, no, Mr. Bill. Anybody old enough remembers that from Saturday Night Live. But anyway, the price, not looking so good right now, but the way I understand it when I listen to all the TA guys out here, I really start to get the opinion collectively from everybody that it's just coiling up a lot of tension and it's going to spring loose. And they're still calling for over $1 possibly this week for XRP. And some calls are even calling for over $2.80 going into, I think, into the spring, April or May. So, but let's go ahead and get started with the news this morning because we do have a lot to cover. So let's get right down into this. Analyst says Ethereum, XRP, 7 crypto assets poised to blast off a new alt season. Next in line is XRP. According to Capo, Ripple's native asset will surge over 460% from its current price of 50 cents or now 47 cents to $2.80 before May 2021. Who's upset about that? Not this guy. And we're going to talk about all of this $2 price action business here at the end. I'm going to wrap all that up. But now what we have coming up here is save the date from Matteo Magori. Forgive me if I just train wrecked your name. It's me. You know, that's all I could say. They're going to have a great conversation on the global financial system and exchange rates. I want to remind everybody right now that is tomorrow. And I want to remind you that we heard the IMF, which I covered in either August or September this past summer. And they had a huge conference on doing external adjustments to dominant currencies, external peg adjustments. Exchange rate adjustments to dominant currencies like the US dollar. I'm going to try to make that little conversation right there. I'm really excited to hear what they have to say. The European Central Bank private sector can help with intensifying digital euro project. You don't say. Come up with that all by yourself, did you? Yeah. Look, this public-private relationship that needs to happen, collectively around the world when it comes to central banks launching a digital dollar, this narrative here is really understood, I believe, by the decision makers a lot. I think it's a lot clearer to them than they've let on over the years. But I believe it is now that we start to hear this roll out and the light bulb moment. Oh gosh, if we work with the private sector here, we're going to do really well. Well, no kidding, because banks aren't innovators. And that is not breaking news. So it's just where we need to be, right? And it's exactly what we want to see. European Central Bank is looking over 17 or 19 countries in the euro. So that's a pretty big statement coming from them. Now let's take a look at this, because Bitcoin over $19,000 this morning again is the key word here. Again, how many more times is it going to come up and test that 19.2, 19.4 area before we see it actually crack past 20 grand? Listen, I have had to point out a lot of the misgivings about Bitcoin and other coins, and I don't do it from a maxi point of view. I do it because Bitcoin has proven over time that it's not really the solution for a cross-border payments network, although it can be used. But the reality is it's made its way to a store of value, and that is the pitch these days. And you know what? Good for Bitcoin, because I think it serves very well at that purpose. Now, With that being said, Ethereum has carved out the niche of smart contracts. Now, the next hurdle in front of that is going to be the high gas fees. Even though they're moving from proof of work to proof of stake, this is still going to be an issue going forward for the Ethereum network as a whole, which makes me very excited about Flare Networks and the utility fork from XRP or of XRP, and what it will be able to do to bridge between the ledger and Ethereum. So, and other networks as well. So my point being here is that Bitcoin has really secured its place, and XRP obviously as back-end settlement for transactions cross-border that are fast, secure, scalable. You know the drill. And, they all have their own place. And again, it's not like Coke against Pepsi. This is like, you want Coke, you want coffee, or do you want water? Right? They're all three different things, and they all three serve different use cases. So something to keep an eye on here. I just think that seeing, I don't know what goes on, but reading the tea leaves and seeing Bitcoin continually now testing up in the 19.2, 19.4 range. I just feel like it can't be long before it makes that real push and busts through 20,000. And I'll be so excited for Bitcoin holders and the little bit that I'm holding for me and Mrs. Backup and the whole market, because when it goes over 20,000, it's going to make a lot of news. And I think that's good for everybody all the way around. Okay, now taking a look at this, Bitcoin's still on track to break 20,000 in the coming weeks. And that's coming from analysts at NASDAQ. So maybe a little something to it. Don't believe me when I say it, but maybe you should listen to that guy or girl, whoever it is. So, all right. So now here, Michael Val 5Link, shout out to you, says, I don't know how I missed this last month, but I think we actually covered it, but I wanted to make a point of it because he sent it through again. And I was like, you know what? This is a big deal. We should really highlight this again. So Western Union has signed an agreement to buy 15% equity stake in the digital payments company of Saudi Arabia's STC group, or known as STCPay, right? So, and what I wanted to share there is that this is the actual article. You can breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not going to read it to you. But what I wanted to share here is that STC is also talked in here in this article. This is an older article. I want to say 2018. Yeah, April 2018. But I pulled this so we could see how all of these networks can serve a purpose and work together. So here it says, experiences in rich innovation, blockchain platforms are in rapid evolution phase, whereas Ethereum blockchain technology is based on open standards and has an industry-wide adoption. And then it talks here later about STC aims to tailor blockchain business applications. It builds various industries, helping them accelerate adoption in a seamless manner. Or our focus is on use cases which are more relevant for blockchain applications, employ the core principle of a trusted distributed ledger. In February, Saudi Arabia's central bank launched a program for banks in the country to use blockchain to settle payments. A pilot project will use software to settle payments into and out of the country. In this case, Saudi Arabia is using technology from another U.S. company, Ripple. And I just wanted to show how you could see, a combination eventually here, although it doesn't clearly say it in this article, where they use Ethereum, in certain instances, right? I mean, I've always pointed out, especially with the birth of Flare networks now, that, seeing companies that have ERC20 tokens launched for their business and Flare networks knowing what its capabilities are at this point, and the XRP ledger, I could see a situation where you could have a company that's created these tokens and they say, hey, you know what? Because it's a two-way bridge on and off the XRP ledger, you could also build that same bridge over to somebody there at the Ethereum network with the FXRP, right? And you could run smart contracts on that as well. So to me, or at least that's how I understand it, and if that's the case, then I start to see a real federation of these individual protocols coming together to act as one single unit or layer of the new financial internet of value. Right. And that's huge. And going on to that, we can't have any of this happen without regulation. And knowing that, we know that this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in July 21st of 2020 made this rule effective. And that rule effective is that the sender and receiver of a cross-border payment could now get the transparency before accepting or receiving that cross-border payment and know what it is and the route that it's going to take, right, and how much it'll cost. So knowing that, it is cited in this PDF file from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that SWIFT GPI, Global Payments Innovation, and drum roll, Ripple XRP are cited as solutions to affect the settlement of those transfers. So the sender and receiver, and this is pretty crazy, for the first time in history of cross-border payments, will be able to have the transparency before actually accepting the payment. Now, that's an enormous thing, because when you look at that, then we remember that we just heard a few days ago, Bank of America unveils cross-border payment tracker, and they cite SWIFT GPI, and the cross-border payment tracker is exactly what I just explained to you from the document of the government and the CFPB. Right? It's about the transparency of that cross-border payment tracker using SWIFT GPI, and obviously we know that Ripple and XRP is also the other cited solution. So how much longer before they're all using it? And here we have another opening of the article here where it shows cross-border payments tracker expands SWIFT GPI support to 140 plus currencies. Now imagine this, because we've heard the talk. We've all heard the talk from Brad Garlinghouse and everywhere else. Digital currencies are money. They are currency. Brad Garlinghouse said himself that's how he and his customers see XRP, as a currency, right? And the real placement here would be to insert digital currencies against every fiat pair in the world and make them a part of the Forex market. We even heard Brian Brooks, I played for you yesterday, where he talked about the idea that banks could see digital currencies as FX and foreign currency and just insert them into the FX market, and they already could operate freely underneath of that regulatory framework for foreign currencies, right? So, or foreign exchange. So this is pretty remarkable when you think about what they're talking about here and the idea of inserting something like XRP into the FX market. Now, this is Lloyds Bank of London, who was the first in the world to connect SWIFT GPI. Now, this to me is pretty incredible, because I know that Bank of America and Lloyds Bank of London settle a lot of derivatives back and forth during the day. I don't know what the number is right off the top of my head, but it's big. And I don't think it's any small matter that the two of them happen to be announcing that they're expanding into SWIFT GPI. That to me is pretty remarkable. What does it mean for XRP and Ripple? I can only believe that it means nothing but upside, because I remind you now that Ripple is also on the standards body committee for ISO 20022. People say that they don't like it when I say 2022. Because there's two O's, two zeros. But 20022 ISO payments, which is the new global payment standard, right? And Ripple is the only member on that body and committee that is pursuing the implementation of distributed ledger technology. Well, that ties back into SWIFT directly right there, because that ISO 20022 is the de facto standard for payments in the modern age where we're going. So they're all tied together, whether it's directly or indirectly. And that excites me a lot, because the conversation about regulatory clarity is about to break wide open, ladies and gentlemen. XRP Crypto Wolf tells us here, U.S. Offices of Comptroller of Currency's top chief economist explores the implications of chartering fintech and stablecoin banks and why doing so may provide some regulatory benefits. And the article, which I'm not going to read to you, but I am going to read this section here, talks about shadow banking, which is really the idea of a neobank or a stablecoin bank, right? Neobanks are banks that are not brick and mortar. They exist solely online, okay? And I think what he means here, referencing shadow bank from the article, I think what he means here, referencing shadow banks from the article here, is really about talking about the technology itself and catching that financial technology sector and wrapping it up in a regulatory framework. So the example here is stable coins, and they talk about stable coins really getting a charter for that to be a stablecoin bank. And that's pretty exciting because then you could really bring the confidence behind the market and the use of those stable coins, which would be privately held, right? Or not privately held, but privately run, I should say, but held in a federally chartered way, whether you're either being held by a federally chartered bank or whether the stablecoin company becomes a chartered national bank underneath of the purview of the OCC. Either way, you cut the pie. Now, that's exciting because to me, you're not going to be able to really bring the confidence to the space of regular everyday consumers and institutional investors unless you make these kinds of definitions and clarity here for the market to really be able to flourish. You have to bring consumer confidence. How do you do that? By regulating a legitimate market, and it becomes legitimate because you're regulating it. So this is exciting to me. We're going to keep an eye on it. There's more to come because the U.S. Commodities Futures Trade Commission Technical Advisory Committee heard a presentation about DeFi today. The presentation covered how to regulate new financial protocols, otherwise known to Brian Brooks from the OCC as payment networks. That's what we're talking about, payment networks. And that to me is really, really exciting. When I go down into this article, one of the things that's exciting to me is what I just said, is that it's the presentation. It's the presentation of covering how to regulate financial protocols. I want to finish with this thought, however. The thought I want to finish with here is this. DeFi. DeFi is going to be bigger than the entire crypto asset space. Don't believe it. It's still true. I also believe that in the early inception and growth period of DeFi, that the next moment that will be a true moment to deal with in this space is going to be decentralized finance. And I believe that moment will probably look a lot like that ICO moment that happened in 2018 when regulators came like paratroopers out of an airplane and just started squashing things. I just don't see how you maintain a legitimate marketplace if you have standalone DeFi, which currently right now, DeFi in its emerging days is attached to a drop-down option of, let's say, a BitTrue or a Binance or Kraken or things like that. And you already are KYC'd and AML'd through that particular central platform, and then you can have access to DeFi. Well, at some point, DeFi is going to grow its own legs and want to stand out on its own. And if you trust the platform, you'll be able to put your crypto, your assets there and borrow against it, regardless of a third party. I think there's going to be a day of reckoning for that moment. However, I think that is going to really, we're going to have to hit a point where I believe you're going to see, if you see platforms come out standalone like that, you're going to have a node, I would imagine, from a regulatory agency or more than one even, to allow that moment to happen. But that is a day that is not here yet, but it's certainly one to be thinking about today. And there's really great stuff coming. I think we're down into the 4 to 6 week window now instead of the 6 to 8 week window with the clarity we're looking for here in the U.S., which I believe will spur and be a catalyst to anyone in the world taking off with crypto. Because if you don't believe that, then why has the rest of the world not taken off with XRP as of yet? It's because it's a coordinated effort. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment below, hit the notification bell, and share with somebody you know. Make sure you check out all the links in the description box and the comment section. And there's some really great links in there. They are trusted products and services, and they are absolutely vetted links. Always be careful what you click on when you're on the internet and pay very close attention to scams. My oldest brother last night got a scam from a fake ledger account. It was a fake ledger account. So be very, very careful. He reached out to me and he knew what was going on. But I mean, if it can look very real to you when they send it and they ask you to reset your PIN or passwords and things of that nature, never, ever do that. And if you get a correspondent from any exchange or any cold storage company that you deal with when it comes to your investments, do not answer to that thread. Even if you know it's true, start your own email thread, reach out to the company directly yourself independently, and you should be able to clear up the matter in a very, very short period of time. That's my tip for today. I will catch all of you on the next one.